As was mentioned, I'm Jane Hendrick. I lead marketing strategy and media at Marriott, and we have a really exciting topic today. I think that what we are all finding is that in today's fragmented media landscape, it's not just about the technology, it's really about telling a story seamlessly and meeting consumers where they are. But, you know, it's on in the metaverse, it's on billboards, it's on your phone. Increasingly, we are meeting our consumers in places like video games. So as all of that is evolving, we have an amazing panel here with leaders from media, entertainment, and fashion, and I'm going to hand it over to each one of them to introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Ian.
Hey guys, Ian Dallimore, VP of Digital Growth at Lamar Advertising. We have 500,000 billboards across the US and Canada. We're a 128-year-old company and have been evolving since 1902. So excited to be here.
Good morning, everybody. Shirley Hughes, EVP of Growth and Customer Experience for Ryff. We are a AI computer vision company doing virtual product placement, putting brands in any sort of content across television, film, and social in a contextual manner, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Nice to be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carole, Diarra, and I lead the global marketing team for UGG. We are a $2.5 billion footwear and lifestyle brand. And these shoes are one of our most fabulous collections. They're a collaboration with Kalina Strada. A lot of people have been asking me, are you wearing UGG? And I was like, yes, exactly. So I'll turn it over.
So I'm Jason Taylor, Chief Revenue Officer for Gannett, USA Today Network, and the most boring shoes on the panel. But we'll say we have the largest total audience for news and information in the United States. Very proud of that. And over 200 good-sized markets in America as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Well, we're going to start with a question for each of you. And the question is, how can brands craft cohesive narratives that span physical spaces like billboards, as well as digital platforms and immersive environments like Metaverse and the gaming? And I know you have a great example, Ian, so we'll start with you first.
Yeah, I think, we sit here in Cannes, we're a brand, we're vendors, we're tech companies. I think if we stop and take our professional hats off and we just talk to us as consumers and how do we want to be met throughout the day. I have 13-year-old triplets, so they're my litmus test. And it's interesting, right? Because I watch their journey throughout the day. They'll play roadblocks and they're integrated with ads. They'll jump over to TikTok, they're integrated with ads. They'll jump in the car with mom and they're met with digital billboards. And there's so many brands that just do it well and they're not sitting in this siloed approach. And then when you overlay that canvas, beautiful canvas that is large format billboard, you really have that opportunity to really kind of tell that story to the consumer. And ironically, before Caroline was actually on the panel with us, we were discussing like ingesting data, talking to the consumer right place, right time. And I was like, being a sneakerhead myself, I have the most perfect example. We do campaigns all the time with this beautiful brand named Uggs, and it's triggered based off of weather. And then here you are.
Awesome. Wow, triplets. Good for you. Shirley, I'd love to hear from you.
Everybody's stuck on the triplet conversation. Yeah. So I'm just going to bring at it from our perspective and helping brands tell authentic stories through the places that they show up within content and making sure what we do is put those brands in the exact right place. Again, that's contextually correct and aware. It helps move this story forward, which is a part of all the larger campaigns that go along with whether they're out of home or they're TV spots or an activation that they might be doing. So it's making sure that we show up with the same message and, again, telling stories about the brand through other people's storytelling as well.
So as many of you know, there's definitely a continued love and nostalgia for everything in the 2000s. And when we talk to consumers about why they love the 2000s, they just talk about because that was a time when everything was real. And in some ways, the rise of technology is also the rise of more things that are real, that feel real, that are powerful and meaningful. And so they're looking to brands that can offer something that feels real, that feels like it's important, that feels like it has history and legacy. So as we think about the entire landscape as at UGG, we're really trying to think about how can we tell our story? How can we connect communities in as many places as they are? And so that is a mix of CTV and billboards and more traditional media, but it's also creating more experiences in real life than ever before. And I would say that's been one of the biggest unlocks for us, is that people do want to connect with each other. They want to meet their own friends. They want to meet their creative communities. And a lot of our brand narrative right now is about connecting those communities. And so while we'll have an activation like we had Post Malone last year. He was one of our big collaborators that we worked with. We launched a campaign with him as he came out with his new country music album. We launched a campaign with him that was called Lead a Horse to Water. And it was Post Malone in like an old Western. And he was leading the horse. And then the horse didn't want to step into the water. But because Post Malone had on his like waterproof boots, then he was able to. And what was really interesting about that is not only did we create the creative kind of in partnership with the talent, but then we activated that across different mediums. So we had a big activation called a Feel House. A Feel House is where our community comes together all across the globe. And Post Malone was there. He curated the entire experience with customized boots that he really loved. We gave those out to VIP talent. He performed a cappella, and then we amplified that across all of our touch points. So for us, it's the most is about creating experiences that touch our community and amplifying that across several different mediums to make sure that the storytelling is more powerful.
Oh, that's great. I love that. And so many of the things you said tie in directly to what we do. We meet consumers where they want their news and information, all across America, especially in Middle America. Ironically, even traditional means of communication like the print advertising. Post Malone released his album title track list in print in the Nashville, Tennessean, one of our markets. That was a very unique moment in time for 2025 for a major pop artist to go back to a print method of announcing his album tracks. So we also, we have the largest, and speaking of building community, we have the largest event company in the country owned by a media company. So whether it's Endurance, whether it's expos, whether it's award shows all across America, we're able to bring in our communities through the content that doesn't just culminate like in a live event like we're at now, but all of the content that we curate throughout the year in partnership with brands that then culminate in a live event. So it really gives us a unique perspective to capture data along the way from those consumers and really gear the messaging towards them throughout the journey. So.
Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Carole, I would love to follow up on something you said. So UGG shows up in so many different spaces. You know, you mentioned CTV, obviously live events, lots of different places, PR. How do you think about telling a sort of connected brand story across all of those different spaces?
Yeah, I really think it's about the fundamentals of brand storytelling, which is what's the story? What's the angle? What are you trying to say, right? Like, how are you trying to connect with people? And then the medium is just attaching either the creative or the amplification that's appropriate for that channel. But the story in so many ways should be consistent. So if we talked about another big kind of tentpole moment for us is called UGG season. So UGG season actually started as a social activation. So in the social zeitgeist, it started to trend every time around September. The first time it started to get cold, consumers would say, oh, it's UGG season. And Cardi B actually coined a phrase for us, and she told everybody, it's UGG season, everybody. And so when we wanted to think about how do we storytell around the first day of fall, we were like, okay, well, what's the story around UGG season? So it really is the opportunity to invite our community the best ways to wear the brand, the way we want to show up today. Like, it's more fashion, it's more going outside, it's more curating a fit than just, you know, being around your house or just lounging around. It's really curating that. So what do? We put it at the most pinnacle elements of fashion. So we always start on the runway. So we always do a collaboration with our fashion partners on the runway. And then right after we hit them on the runway with UGG season, then we launch kind of like our more traditional 360 brand campaign. So we launch our brand anthem, and the brand anthem is usually about style and the new ways to wear UGG. And then we go into our social campaign and we amplify across TikTok and Instagram. And that's really the community. And so there we show the community and the best ways to wear. So it's all cohesive about UGG season. However, it shows up in a lot of different ways in terms of the angle that we're trying to talk about. So whether it's high fashion on the runway, it's a 360 brand anthem at the highest upper funnel levels, or it's a social activation in which the community is actually telling the story. So those are kind of the ways we keep it consistent, but make it appropriate for the channel.
I love that. That's awesome. Next question is for Ian and Shirley. So I know from chatting with both of you that you have some interesting examples of using traditional out of home, but then pairing with other channels. Like I know you had a cool one about traditional out of home and then your sort of immersive media. So I would just love to hear about how you're creating connected experiences for consumers across these different channels.
One of the things that we're able to do, again, is we're trying to integrate what we do into the rest of the campaign or the other activities that are happening with the brand, is we have the ability to create these out-of-home experiences within those television and film opportunities or social media, mid-form, long-form, and create the same creative showing up in the spaces that we are in TV and film that you would find walking down the street of Fifth Avenue or Sunset Boulevard or Piccadilly Circus. So that is something that we have from a consistency perspective that we can do same time, same campaign, everything, again, being in the storytelling of the television and film at the same time what's happening in the rest of the world. So it's a nice seamless, it's seamless to the consumer and carries the same message for the brand forward in that space as well.
So you're seeing it out of home or wherever, and then you're
scene out of
watching-
home and then traditional out of home.
Yeah, and I think you should just give a little background for everyone on like exactly what it is that Ryff does, because I think that that's just interesting the way you're doing virtual product placement.
Yeah, again, we through our AI technology that we have, we contextually find opportunities within the content that we work with to put the brand. So our system scrapes a television show and will say, here's 12 opportunities to find that we can put a brand in, whether it's a bottle on a table or an out of home in a scene that's outside. We do that, then we virtually and dynamically insert that brand. So it's all, again, going to a programmatic model like Ian and I talked about, but dynamically inserting those brands into a TV show that's 30 years old or a TV show that's, you know, the second season of, or even the first season of sort of thing. So we work across all kinds of content.
Yeah, I think if you blend the UGG and then your property, Marriott, I think it's all about authenticity, right? So we'll see more influencers running around here throughout the week in Cannes, but if the brand does not align in with, like the latest collaboration that I'm obsessed with is Stanley Muggs just did a collab. It actually drops tomorrow, small plug, with Post Malone, has his own Stanley, and it's ridiculous, but it makes sense, right? So I think when you talk about authenticity at the Marriott brand, and if you're not taking someone that's truly looks, acts, and feels like they're a part of that brand, Whataburger comes to mind for us. They utilize out of home in obviously the most traditional way, right? It's all about exit here, but more and more now they're taking these influencers and they're taking these collaborations and they're saying Lana Del Rey, who's like this backwoods 200 population, small town USA that's like this country phenom, but she has hundreds of stories how when she accomplished XYZ, she would go eat at a Whataburger. Post Malone, same thing. When he accomplished XYZ, this would happen. And I think that's the uniqueness when we talk about how do we blend the authenticity of the brands that are up here on stage, the AI technology, and what seems to be two of the oldest mediums are now embracing in real time, activating campaigns and culturally relevant moments with brands that make sense in that moment in time. And in the past, that would have never been thought of by a Gannett and a Lamar, which are a 124-year-old company, a 128-year-old company. But we're embracing that technology aspect of things and blending these brands with authenticity, which is fun.
I love that. And continuing with the theme of meeting consumers where they are. So, Jason, for you, as you mentioned, Gannett is like this storied legacy media company with really deep local roots as well as national coverage. So, how do you think about using your platform to, tap into the local consumer while also driving some of these major national messages?
Yeah, I think one of the true beauties of our company is that we have this major national, highly recognized brand of USA Today, but then across all of these markets in Middle America, we own that local institution that sometimes has been there upwards of 200 years. It's a trusted brand across Middle America. Many of our brands who work with us most, they will say to us, you reach the movable middle. And that always sticks with me because we have this ability to reach the Des Moines, Iowa, Indianapolis, Indiana, Nashville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas of the world, and really drive a trusted message alongside a brand over and over again. And I think that, again, you can play it. And then the other thing that I find so beautiful about what we do, and probably similar to Lamar, a brand can test something in any 1, 2, 3, 6 of our markets. And then when they get the traction, we can scale it immediately in real time across the country. So that's been really fascinating to watch as more and more brands experiment with us to take a message to Middle America. And hell, I'm just expecting Post Malone to walk in any minute. 3 of us have mentioned him. So, maybe it's going to happen.
Yeah, let's stay tuned. But another thing that you can't have a panel at Cannes without mentioning AI. So I have the obligatory AI question. I would love to hear from each of you how things like AI and technology are evolving how you're telling stories. And I know you all have good examples, but maybe we'll start with you, Ian.
Yeah, I think, AI obviously creates the efficiency. I hate the word AI because it's like, all right, how do we just create our jobs to be more efficient so we can go do more fun things, right? In the out-of-home in general, we've embraced AI through programmatic. So how are we ingesting real-time data, whether it's triggering real-time data feeds for trigger, UGG campaigns, or you name the brand. But more importantly, it's really around how do we look, act, and behave like mobile, like online, like CTV, to where we can transact in real time, ingesting first-party data where agencies, my friend on stage earlier at Havas, how can they streamline the process of buying a medium that used to be so difficult to buy, but create those efficiencies that allow for it not only to buy it from a siloed approach, but really have it hit that journey approach throughout the day. And you're unable to do that without some sort of AI technology and embracing the data side of it.
Well, we are an AI company, so that's what we live with every day. But what, again, we have done is the ability to, at scale, put brands into CTV content, into any sort of content in the world at scale in a contextual manner, and helping and do that fast. If you think of traditional product placement, where you want to work with a television or film that takes 12, 18, 24, 36 months, whatever it might be, it may not even show up, we can do that. The minute that whatever that piece of content is edited, and our AI allows us to do that, again, contextually and very fast. So, that's just the world we live in every day.
Yeah, I think for brands, AI is really interesting because as a brand, you're always trying to understand how fast you really need to go and how much you really need to just wait and assess where things are going to go before you make a move, because it is about investment of time, resources, people, all the things. So for us, I feel like what we've done is we've taken small test and learns to understand what's really scalable. And so if it comes for on the media side, that's a little bit more obvious because we're working with our media partners, like a Jellyfish, who's going to be working with all of you guys to make sure the implementation is optimized. On our side, we're trying to do more real-time creation of content. So really just understanding how do the machines that we work with learn our tone of voice, learn our creative intention, so that then when they propose iterations or optimizations, they're kind of in line with our brand ethos. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is that, of course the machines, they can learn to produce something similar to what you have. But is it really brand right? I think is where we see the biggest questions and opportunities. And we see that evolving every day. And we've done a number of, like I said, tests and learns, whether it's like taking some of our holiday campaign and just wrapping it up with different types of creative imagery to kind of understand what works best, but still making sure that it's brand right or that it taps into another piece of the campaign content. So we'll do that with just like programmatic that we pull off the website or something. Like, how do we make that programmatic look a little bit more like campaign content so that it's a little bit more contextual and relevant? And then, like I said, we've also done that with CTAs, and how do you make sure that the CTAs are like in your brand voice? Now, where we're going that's really interesting is maybe more for internal sell-in documents. We do a lot of catalogs in which we sell to our wholesale partners. So really understanding how AI could manifest an entire catalog. I think from a creative perspective, that would be a really big unlock and a true amount of efficiency for our teams, but we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of companies, including ours, are experimenting with using AI to write product descriptions and that sort of thing. So even if it's not creative, just efficiency in the workflow.
Yeah, definitely for us, efficiency, speed to market for content. Content is essential to what we do every day. Journalism has to be trusted. So we've just last week launched on USA Today and all of our sites a custom AI engine that only uses our content to drive the answer. So that's trusted, essential content that we find very valuable. Speed of campaign, AI usage for speed of campaign is essential for us as well. And then I just think, again, scaling things faster across all of the totality of our markets. AI is really giving us a path towards that we're very excited about.
Great. Ian, question for you. So, in out of home, I would love to hear about the role of context, whether it's the location, the time of day, or a cultural moment, and how you use that to, tap into the brand story and tell something that's more customized.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of out of home. Not just Lamar. There's so many other products that are out there. There's elevator networks. There's on Ubers. There's inside your gyms. Literally throughout your entire journey, especially if you live in a large city, like you can't go 10 steps without being integrated with some other medium. So the beauty of what we do as an industry is it's really geographically based, and you can have a moment in time. I mean, it's blazing hot outside in Cannes. And I was kind of disappointed in my journey when I landed this morning. I was like, what a great opportunity for any brand that's here today to have some sort of trigger that talks about whether it's sunscreen or the flip side. Where's the coldest place I could go right now? So a lot of what we do, it's geographical based. Culturally relevant moments is massive for us. So Coachella, Lamar specifically, we have 300 billboards that litter that area, coming from LA, coming from Las Vegas, and we're not going to say Post Malone anymore because he's not going to show up here on stage, but he buys out billboards. For us, it's about that location and time. And if I talk about my friends at Gas Station TV, when you're sitting there pumping your gas, what's relevant to you at that moment in time when you have 2.5 minutes? When you're driving past a specific billboard headed to Omaha right now, which I'm a Homer LSU baseball fan, go Tigers. Why not litter that entire area with maybe it's Marucci bats that talks about it? So that's the biggest thing that we touch on and talk about when we're working with brands is make sure you're relevant in that market, whether it's utilizing data or just kind of common sense, right? You and I were collaborating on the call and talking about this specifically. Like, what if it's snowing in Chicago, but your Marriott property in the Caribbean is advertising on out of home? Like, the beauty of that. Like, I want to be anywhere other than here, and that property resonates. So that's how we're utilizing both data and geographical locations in out of home.
I love that. I think if you were advertising for a Marriott property in Alaska right now, I would want to go
Amen.
just to get out of the heat. Shirley, question for you. So, Ryff is really at the forefront of virtual product placement, but how do you make sure that when you're placing a brand that it really enhances the story and enhances the brand itself? Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, that is how we've trained the AI, that we're constantly training daily as well to look at those dynamic environments that are happening throughout the content to make sure that we know it's daytime, we know that it's an event, we know that it's got kids or it doesn't have children, we know we wouldn't want to put alcohol bottles in a place that has kids or in a car or something like that. So that is, we train the AI with thousands of pieces of metadata every day, and every time the more content comes through, it helps with that. So that is really what ensures that we are protecting the brand, putting the brand in the right, again, context of where they need and want to be, and helping move the story forward in an authentic way versus it being not in the right place. It's a big part of how our technology is trained.
Well, I know we only have about a minute left, so this is like a rapid fire question for each of you. But I would love to know, what's one sort of storytelling trend or technology that you are personally excited about? And maybe we'll start with you, Jason, if that's okay.
I would say the embedding of organic, trusted influencers into traditional content is really fascinating right now. Going through the grocery store, teaching you where instead of the old sales paper that used to be in a newspaper, an organic person walking through a grocery store telling you the deals, showing you what to do. I think it's just a fun playground right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just disrupting like content and being relevant in those cultural moments. So a lot of what Ian talked about, we do buy those billboards for Coachella. For Reese Cooper, we just did one with a big collaboration that we have. And what I find is just like the content that people are consuming, don't be afraid to put that across your more traditional channels, right? So we definitely have played a lot with that, which takes like a social piece of content and bringing it to like social CTV. So it's like reversing it. I feel like that's what people are engaging with. So making sure like that's relevant in more places is really kind of where things are moving.
Quickly, I would say just brand storytelling in general. Brands are going back to creating awareness about their brands and telling their brand stories versus just relying on performance or programmatic. That's exciting because, again, building your brand comes from telling the story. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and mine's very simplistic. If you're a massive brand, localize your creative and talk to the consumer in the market they live in.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope everyone in the audience learned a little bit about brand storytelling. Really appreciate all of your time. Thank you.